Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday, July 13th now, as we're getting on through July, trucking our way on through, and we do have some active weather out there to talk about, including severe weather today, as well as a bit of a taste of fall for some folks going into early next week and this weekend. And I know you're thinking it's July, how is that possible? But I'm going to explain all that for you, and I'll tell you who is going to see some of that pretty nice weather, actually really nice weather, I'd say, going into about the next 4 or 5 days out. Now, we'll preface this by saying this will not happen for everyone. So if you're living in the southeast or the southwest, do not get your hopes up. You have a long way to go before we start feeling fall-like weather. But for some folks, we are going to get that going into the next 4 or 5 days, and we'll definitely talk about that today. So with that said, I do want to thank you for joining me today. It means a lot, like always. And comment, let me know where you're watching from. And to my regular viewers, thank you for coming back. It means the world to me that you take time out of your day to come and watch me talk about my passion. So with that said, let's go ahead and start talking about some of the weather out there. So taking a look at satellite imagery, this is that low pressure spinning away up here into Canada. We talked about this yesterday and how this was a piece of energy that kind of broke off from a bigger upper level low that's spinning kind of north of this map here, and that is what is going to really affect our weather into this weekend. But right now we have this piece of energy that again kind of broke off. That is going to cause some severe weather today into upstate New York, where we already have a pretty feisty line of storms working its way on through, and also some storms firing off here kind of along the Ohio River Valley from Lexington, Kentucky, all the way into sections of West Virginia. Now, south of there, we also have a complex of storms down here into Mississippi and Alabama causing some trouble, but other than those spots, a pretty nice Thursday for most of us. Now, taking a look at current radar watches and warnings, we do have two different severe thunderstorm watches. One up here into New York and Vermont, where you guys have just been getting pummeled the past couple of days. First, we had that flooding, now severe weather on top of that. And then south of there as well, here into kind of areas of Cincinnati and back over into West Virginia and southern Ohio as well. And I should also mention a big section of northeastern Kentucky there, also seeing some of those stronger storms. Now up here into New York, these are where the storms are a bit more feisty. In fact, most of these are already severe thunderstorm warned here, as this is a bit closer to that low pressure itself, so have a bit more wind energy to work with up here, and that's why we also have a tornado threat specifically up here into New York State as we go through this evening. So definitely make sure you're being careful, especially these kind of more discrete cells out in front of this main line have a bit more of a chance to produce some tornadoes, and those could even work their way up into Canada a little bit. Now, outside of there, again, we do have some stormy weather further to the south, if the map will load at least. We'll look at that. There we go. Again, some showers and storms down here into Mississippi and Alabama. Those are causing some flooding today, so we'll definitely watch out for that. And outside of there, throughout the mid-Atlantic and southeast, do expect some scattered afternoon thunderstorms just due to that normal summertime pattern. Now, talking about something a little different than the rain, still dealing with a whole bunch of heat down here into the western and southern part of the country, from California down through Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, even OKC, getting in on that big time heat. And this is really locked in for a while, and I don't really see much relief from this heat and humidity as well going through the medium and long range. So sorry to you folks there. Now, it's a bit of a tougher forecast into the southeast. You'll notice we don't quite have these big summertime temperatures out here. Not to say that it's not hot, but we're not quite into dangerous territory here in the southeast. It's a bit of a tough forecast going into the medium and long range here, as the models aren't quite agreeing on what's going to happen, but I do feel pretty confident we're going to keep with this heat and humidity, at least through these current areas that are experiencing it, through at least the next week, maybe even 2 weeks, and maybe even longer than that. Now, taking a look at that risk today, we do have an enhanced risk, again, up into New York State for those severe storms, and that slight risk also going all the way back down into where we have that severe thunderstorm watch for you folks from Cincinnati down to Frankfort, eastbound into West Virginia and southern Ohio. Also dealing with some severe storms back out into the plains today, but again, I don't have many viewers out that way, and it's a pretty not very densely populated areas, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So taking a look at the next couple of days on future radar, again this evening, expecting these storms to continue here through New York and into other areas where we looked at that severe weather risk. That will continue into tonight before those storms die out a little bit. And as we go into tomorrow afternoon, expect another flare-up of showers and storms into the mid-Atlantic as a bit of energy is able to allow some of these storms to grow. Can't rule out a couple of severe storms tomorrow in the mid-Atlantic as well. Not expecting anything crazy off the charts, but nonetheless could get some strong to severe storms that way for our Friday afternoon before, once again, those storms diminish. Now, going into Friday afternoon as well, do expect some severe storms back out into the plains as we get a pretty nasty line of storms to form back out there. Now, going into our Saturday afternoon, again, expect some scattered showers and storms as, again, we have almost a bit of a front kind of passing on through this weekend, and that will allow some more showers and storms, again, with maybe some severe weather during the day Saturday and possibly even Sunday. So taking a look at the overall pattern, the big driving force over the next couple of days is going to be this big cutoff low up into Canada. And as we talked about yesterday, I do expect this to continue to sink on south into the lower 48 and into the Great Lakes region and the Midwest going into this weekend and early next week. So you'll notice Saturday afternoon here, this thing really starts to work into the lower 48. And with it, it's still bringing that flow around it. And that is what is going to allow these storms to fire off into the east going into this weekend. So Saturday, expect that to happen. Sunday, expect that to happen. Going into early next week, this cutoff low still working on through, and with it bringing a lot of cooler temperatures up into the Great Lakes region. And these are the folks that are going to see that fall-like weather going into this weekend. And this might not be fall-like maybe for them because a lot of times fall there is into the 50s, but we're going to have highs for some people not get out of the 60s this weekend into sections of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. So that will be very interesting to see here, just to see how low those high temperatures get. And again, we're in the middle of July here, so this is about the warmest time of the year for a lot of folks up this way. And, it might not quite feel like it as this cutoff low moves on through. Now, that is also, again, going to increase the chances of showers and storms throughout at least the first half of next week, Monday through probably Wednesday or Thursday for a lot of folks in the east before the forecast gets a little bit more complicated after that as some of the models begin to disagree past there. Now, one thing I do want you to note as we go through the entire, next week or so, this big area of red or this ridging down into the areas that are seeing really warm weather, that is going to continue for at least the next week. So again, you folks, it'll be pretty warm and stay really high with those temperatures. Now, where I said the forecast gets a little more difficult here into the southeast, this is why. Just kind of watch where I have circled here. Again, we might get kind of clipped by that cutoff low a little bit this weekend, not quite as much though here into the southeast and mid-Atlantic. But as we go into next week, it looks like that ridging might try to build back in, but then the GFS here at least, or its ensembles, immediately bring troughing back into the equation with below average temperatures. So not all the models agree on this, but we will see. Nonetheless, the southeast and mid-Atlantic has really been spared so far this summer from that big-time heat, so I tend to believe it's going to have to happen eventually, whether that's now, whether that's a week from now, 2 weeks from now. We're not going to survive all of summer, I don't think, without getting up into, pretty high temperatures. So taking a look at the kind of precipitation forecast, again, just notice pretty widespread showers and storms in the east as this cutoff low moves through this weekend into early next week and likely even into the middle of next week before maybe going into, later parts of next week, things will clear out, but we will just kind of have to wait and see what happens there. I do feel confident, though, pretty widespread showers and storms now through at least next Wednesday for much in the east. And then, of course, after that, a lot of question marks as we get into the longer range. Now, taking a look at temperatures, again, I want you to notice, look at this dark blue going into this weekend and early next week, taking over the Midwest and the Great Lakes region as that cutoff low moves on through, bringing temperatures maybe 10 to 15 degrees below what they should be this time of year. And again, temperatures might not get out of the 60s for some folks, but widespread 70s and low 80s for a lot of people here into the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. Now, again, you'll notice this isn't going to get quite to everyone. I think this blue could get as far south as the Ohio River and into the Northeast going into the middle of next week. But for areas kind of east of the Appalachian chain and kind of south of Kentucky, it will be really tough to get these cooler temperatures down this far south as this moves on through. Now, some good news as well with this is this isn't just going to be really from the heat, but also from that muggy weather. So you'll notice this big time spin kind of spin its way on down here with much drier air as it brings with it those cooler temperatures. So going into this weekend and early next week, look at these dew points. Some of us might have dew points only in the 40s going into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday here into the Great Lakes and the Midwest. So really, again, all out fall-like weather for a lot of folks here, and that will be really nice. Now, again, areas south of there, it'll be tough, but we could get a glancing blow of these kind of nicer dew points going into the middle of next week. So maybe not quite as oppressive as we have seen. So instead of the 70s, more like 60s for a lot of folks here in the east, I think, going through early and middle parts of next week. And then, of course, after that, there likely will be a return of some of those dew points getting back up into the 70s after this cutoff low kind of works its way on through. One thing I also should mention, actually, let me go back, because again, I've been asked about the wildfire smoke a little bit up here. Again, as this cutoff low comes on in, expect the wildfire smoke to return, as it will be bringing a lot of that Canadian air, and the flow will be coming kind of from where we're seeing those wildfires. So expect some of that smoke to work its way back in with this cutoff low going into early next week. Just wanted to mention that really quickly. Now, only a couple more things to talk about here today, one of which I did quickly want to show how much rain we're expecting over the next week. And again, with these pretty widespread afternoon showers and storms, a lot of us are going to see relatively hefty totals of rainfall getting in that 2 to 4 inch range. Again, this won't be for everyone, but for those of you that do see those pretty widespread afternoon showers and storms, expect the rain to kind of rack itself on up here. Now, last thing I'm going to mention here is in the tropics, we do have a medium risk of something forming out here in kind of really the middle of no man's land out here in the Atlantic. Really no threat to land with this, but I did quickly want to mention it just because it is July, and I probably should mention the tropics a little bit more often than I have, but luckily the season has just been relatively quiet so far, and I really want to emphasize that so far because things really don't normally pick up until we start getting into August, and then especially September, and in recent years, even October has been a very active month in the tropics. So again, with that said, I do appreciate you joining me today, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I'll get back to answering those as soon as I can. But with all that said, I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday out there, and I will see you all tomorrow.